Welcome back. Well, today's book is about a gift given to a baby in Bethlehem over 2,000 years ago. It's a book about a boy learning how to recognize trees that release a very valuable sap-like resin and how to gather those drops, which look almost like pearls or tears. Let's read. The Third Gift, written by Linda Sue Park. Illustrations by Bagram Ibataline. Linda Sue Park was born in Urbana, Illinois, to parents who had immigrated from Korea. She is married with 2 children and 2 grandchildren, and she met her husband Ben when she was studying at Trinity College, Dublin in Ireland, after graduating from Stanford with a BA in English. She is the author of many books for young readers, including a 2002 Newbery Medal for her book, A Single Shard. Bagram Ibataline was born in Omsk, Russia, and art has always been part of his life. First, he attended the Children's Art School for 5 years, followed by 4 years at the Art College of Kazan, and then the State Art Institute of Moscow for 5 years. He's illustrated over 30 picture books and now lives in Goldsboro, Pennsylvania. My father collects tears. That is what they are called, the pearls of sap that seep out of a tree when the bark is cut. Maybe they are called tears because it seems as if the tree is crying. My father knows where the good trees are. I walk with him, the basket in one hand, the water gourd slung over my shoulder. We walk a long way. Some of the trees are close together, but most of them are far apart. One tree here, another tree there, yet another far beyond. They are not beautiful trees. Their branches are stunted, knotty, spiny. Their leaves are a dull grayish green. My father has to see inside each tree. Of course, he can't really see inside, but he looks carefully at the trunk and the branches. He tears off a leaf and sniffs it. He runs his hand along the bark. Sometimes he shakes his head. No, not this tree. Not now. And we walk again in the heat and dust. Other times, he nods his head and takes up the axe. This is another thing he knows, how to cut through the bark twice in the shape of an X. Not too deep, not too shallow, and in exactly the right place. He makes the first cut, then the second. He steps back. Together we watch. I hold my breath. A tear begins to emerge, a tear of sap, the blood of the tree. If my father has chosen well, and he always does, for he has been harvesting these tears all his life, plenty of sap will bubble out from a pocket beneath the bark. It will form a fine big tear before the sap ceases flowing. The outside of the tear will dry in the hot sun until he can pick it off with his fingers. My father's tears are large, their rough dried shell protecting the treasure of rosin inside. Other collectors are not as skilled as he is. Their tears are small, all shell and no center. My father sells the tears to the spice merchant in the marketplace. Because the tears take time and skill to harvest, they fetch good sums of money, and people must pay even more to buy them. The tears are used for many things. They can be ground up as medicine for headaches or stomach aches. They are used to flavor wine. Some people like to rub the rosin on their skin to soothe rashes. The best tears The most expensive ones are used for funerals. The tears are ground into a powder, then steeped in oil. The oil is used to wash the body of the one who has died. Other tears are burned during the funeral, so their scent fills the air. It's a sharp smell, both bitter and sweet. When you smell the tears at a funeral, you know that someone truly beloved has died. My father takes me with him to harvest the tears. He holds out a leaf for me to sniff. He tells me to run my hand over the bark of a tree. I do not yet know what I'm supposed to smell or feel, but one day I will. Until then, I carry the basket and the water gourd, and I watch and try to learn. My father checks the last of the good trees. He smiles. "Look," he says. I look and see the biggest tear yet, as large as a hen's egg, nearly as large as my fist. "Go ahead," he says, still smiling. I set the basket down and reach for the tear. I twist it off carefully but quickly, just as I have seen him do it. I hold it in my palm, turn it over, sniff its sharp, bitter sweetness. Then I place it gently in the basket. On the way home, I look at it again and again. A few weeks later, we walk to the market. It is after midday when we arrive. The spice merchant waves and calls to us. "I've been waiting for you." Inside his tent, there are 3 men drinking tea. They wear fine robes, red, gold, blue. I have never seen such robes before. The spice merchant says to his customers, "This is the man I was telling you about." The man in red greets my father. "We are buying gifts," he says. "We have some already, but we wish to buy one more. Something special." My father nods at me. I give the basket to the merchant. With practiced fingers, he culls through the tears and places several of the largest on a cloth. In the center is my tear. The 3 men examine the tears. They speak to one another in a strange language. Finally, they look at the merchant and my father, and they nod. "We have a gift of gold and a gift of frankincense," says the man in red. "Now we will add to them a gift of myrrh." As the spice merchant wraps the tears, he says, "May I ask who the gifts are for?" I am glad he asked, for I want to know too. The man in red does not speak for a moment. Then he says, "The gifts are for a baby." I frown a little. Myrrh is a strange gift to give to a baby. But of course, I say nothing, and I am proud that my tear, the one I harvested, is to be part of the gift. I watch the 3 men mount their camels. I watch them leave the marketplace. I watch as they ride into the desert. And I wonder about the baby. The end. The book of Matthew in the Bible tells us, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judah, in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he who is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him." Linda Sue Park, the author of today's book, tells us, As a child, I heard the wise men story read at Christmas over and over, but I never knew what myrrh was. And since no one ever explained it, I thought everybody must know what myrrh is except me. Finally, when she was an adult, she found out. And so she wrote this story for all of us who might not know very much about what that third gift of the wise men was. Now, the visit of the wise men into Bethlehem appears in just one place in the Bible, in the 2nd chapter of the book of Matthew, verses 1 through 12. Matthew doesn't even tell us the number of wise men. And over the centuries, artists painting pictures of the Magi over the years have shown different numbers of wise men. But eventually, tradition has settled on 3, because Matthew mentions 3 gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. See you next week, and we'll have another story.